Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Floodlights Camera Action, your home for the weekly reaction to the latest films and football. From Cillian Murphy to Kylian Mbappe, we'll cover the lot. I'm Jack, but a podcast is only as good as its co-host, so every week I'll be joined by my good friend Veronica to dissect all things film and football. Veronica, how are you?
I'm good, Jack. Just having a bit of coffee. We are recording quite early today for me, but I can't wait to get started and have a bit of a waffle about what has happened in the past week. Have a proper first episode today.
Absolutely. Little teaser for today's episode. After the football section, which is obviously the first part of the episode, we will be joined by our good friend Mike Quill from Anything LFC, as well as Mike Quill Music, a lovely, lovely man, and we chat to him all about films and football, and it's really good fun. So be excited for that. If you're not excited, then just deeply disappointed in you. Veronica, what match have you been to this week? Have you got any trips lined up as well?
Yeah, I went to watch QPR against Spurs at Loftus Road. Spurs did win 2-0, but it didn't reflect the match at all, and I'm gonna give you my analysis right now. I thought the first half, okay, was quite even. Basuma made a brilliant run forward through the midfield, played a little 1-2 in the penalty box with someone who I didn't see, and slotted it in to make it 1-0. He celebrated for way too long, considering it was a friendly. So, minus points for that. A negative aura, as the kids say, okay? uh, QPR also did score in the first half, but it was chalked off. So that was a shame because maybe it would have been a better game. It was some really nice build-up play, so it was disappointing that it was called offside. Second half, Spurs made a lot of changes. I think quite a few of their young players came on, and James Maddison, whose new haircut I wasn't a fan of. It made his hairline look a bit worse.
What haircut
Spurs,
is it? That's the important thing. What kind of
well,
haircut?
I think it's just shorter, but it kind of ruins his hairline from long range vision. Um, Yeah, Spurs started the second half really well. They were kind of all over QPR first 10 minutes or so, but then QPR did take over momentum wise and had a few really good chances to score. The Spurs keeper made really good saves, especially this one to deny Lyndon Dykes of a headed goal right into the corner. But of course, as football goes sometimes, Spurs scored from a nice counter attack to double their lead, and the match ended 2-0. A Man of the Match award, which I will give for every game I go to. I know they care about who I think was man of the match, and I'm giving it to someone who barely played, okay? But QPR number 27 on the day, whose name is Alfie Lloyd. He came on in the second half for about half an hour. He played on the left wing, although I did my research and it seems he's usually a centre forward. Whenever he got the ball, he looked so dangerous up against Jed Spence, who I'm calling out right now, had a pretty bad game. Okay? Yeah, Jed Spence, if you're watching, I'm calling you out. You are not great. And I'm locking it in. Alfie Lloyd, breakout season for QPR. But if he doesn't get minutes, it's not my fault. Watch out for him in the next decade or so. He will be big, big player. Okay, Ballon d'Or levels. Uh, also, want to look out for at QPR again is definitely Rayan Colley, 19-year-old winger. He looked really threatening in the first half, almost scored a screamer. It was a great save from the Spurs goalkeeper in the first half. And I think these players might not get that many minutes, but they should because they looked really promising and better than the usual wingers that I see QPR starting. I have other notes from the game that aren't really football related, so I'm going to get into them right now. So Ange Postecoglou, I mentioned I wanted to see him. I did see him. He was looking very cute that day. He had an outfit change at halftime. Okay, he had an outfit change at halftime. He changed into a t-shirt, which was fair, considering it was really hot that day. Also, thank you to QPR for giving a free cap to every fan. That was a really nice gesture, and it's quite good quality. I had a pint of San Miguel at the ground. It was okay, nothing special really. And also, they had a really cool Guinness logo phone charger on the bar at the ground, and now I really want one, but I don't know where to get one. So if someone wants to send me one, feel free.
Just send Veronica free stuff. On the topic of pints, I went to a couple of Portsmouth matches this week. The first of which was the mighty Gosport Borough, my local, versus Portsmouth. Um, got there, thought I'll have a pint, Cruise Campo, which kind of hurt after the Euros final, but whatever. The worst pint I think I've ever been poured. It didn't even taste that bad, but there was no head on it. Um, I could have cried. I mean, I finished it all because I'm just a bit of a lad, aren't I? But
Jack loves a bit of head.
that is disgraceful. I mean, it's staying in, but it's disgraceful. You've really thrown me off my rhythm now. Gloucester versus Portsmouth was a fun game because we looked great and our wingers looked fun. I'd say Josh Murphy, man of the match, brother of Jacob Murphy, Newcastle United legend. Um, yeah, and then I went to what else did I go to? I went to Havant and Waterlooville versus Portsmouth, which I didn't intend to go to, but I had one pint and then bought a ticket. That was how my afternoon went. That was a really fun game. I saw both games with Portsmouth-based YouTuber 4-0 written all over it.
This weekend, by the way, I am going to Charlton against Portsmouth. So I'm going to do some scouting for Jack, who can't go. Boo. And I'll bring back some more of my analysis and notes for all the Portsmouth fans who can't make the away trip.
See, this is Veronica is going to steal my brand. First she does analysis, then she watches Portsmouth. I might be out of a job in the next 2 weeks, which is a shambles really. But anyway, yeah, we Pompey versus Hampton Waterloo was a really fun game for a couple of reasons. First of all, we had a 16-year-old from the academy playing for us called Harry Clout, who played at left wing. Um, exceptionally talented, really good 1v1, agile, good balance, good decision making. He is going to be a really, really good player if we don't mismanage him like we do quite a few of our young players and lose him to a Premier League team. But anyway, less about that. And then second of all, there was a goal that went viral this week from Portsmouth's very own Riley Towler, formerly famous for the Wheels or Doors video. I'm not sure if you're too familiar with that. He got a very thick Bristolian accent, and he was asked a couple of years ago now, are there more wheels or doors in the world? And he went, doors, got to be doors in it, got to be doors, doors everywhere. Look around us, loads of doors. And he basically picked the ball up from his own penalty box, ran the entire length of the pitch against some of the worst defending I've ever seen, by the way. So that maybe takes away from it a little bit, and lobbed the keeper from 45 yards. And then, unlike that Spurs player, he just walked off, didn't even celebrate, which is just that is positive aura. Is when he's like, yeah, I might not be able to hit a diag, but I can lob a keeper from 45 yards out. What are you going to do about it? So yeah, for that Spurs player, I can't remember who it was, but yeah, take notes from Mr. Riley Towler. Anyway, the biggest news I'd say in the last week, football related wise, is of course Portsmouth signing Jacob Trout. No, I'm joking. It is Gareth Southgate stepping down as England manager. Gareth Southgate is a man I have a lot of respect for. I think he's done amazing things with the national team. Veronica is also a huge fan. If you mirror her video, she's putting a thumb up. Um, but anyway, he's done a lot for the culture. He's really progressed a lot of young players. He was pivotal in EPPP, which, although sorry, in England DNA didn't have anything to do with EPPP. That's a lie. But the England DNA, which has really done a lot to further the technical output of our players. Anyway, yeah, he stepped down, which he should have done regardless of how the tournament went. But Veronica, who would you want to succeed Gareth Southgate? Obviously not an England fan, but whatever. And then after that, we'll get on to who we predict the FA appoint.
Okay, so I'm not an England fan, I'm not English, but if I put myself in the shoes of an England fan, I have done a bit of research. Okay, the last few managers to win the Euros and World Cup, and I have determined that the criteria is old, quite serious, tactically sound, but not anything spectacular or crazy experimental. And when you take these things into consideration, I have decided that my pick for the England manager is Sean Dyche. 4-4-2 formation. Okay? Trent crossing the ball into Kane or Watkins. Header equals goal. Okay? Rice and Gallagher is my midfield. Maguire and Gay at centre back. Pickford, long ball to the striker, every single goal kick. I do not want to see any passing it around the back. Okay, sorry, Pep. Saka and Gordon on the wings, and you win the World Cup.
Well, look, it's easy as that. I actually don't think Sean Dyche is a terrible shout. I think he'd love Ivan Toney. He'd just love him. Um, there was a video going on Twitter of Here Comes the Money with the Sean Dyche videos, and it was exceptional. Personally, he wouldn't be my first choice. I mean, he would probably be in the top 10, I'd say. But my, I guess my top three in no particular order. Thomas Frank, who, although he's not English, I think is a coach who is exceptional at coaching both kind of counter-attacking football, possession-based football. I remember watching Brentford in 2020 before COVID. They drew 2-2 at Blackburn. I was there. I think it's Said Benrahma and Ollie Watkins scored for Brentford, and they were just so well coached, really good on the ball. And then he showed when they stepped up to the Premier League a couple of years later, they can mix it up with that kind of the 5-3-2, and go long and be a bit more defensively astute. And also one massive plus point is that he really knows the value of set pieces. And I think any international coach that doesn't value set pieces is a bit of a joke, to be honest. It's such an easy way of gaining little wins. And also he's pretty good in the media from what I've seen, which is important.
I just want to say, I love Thomas Frank. Call me.
Well, Thomas, I'm pretty sure you're married, but if you ever, I mean, might not even be as a romantic thing, might be, as a friend getting a few drinks that then become something more romantic, like in a rom com. Um, my other two picks, the boring one, Lee Carsley. I think Lee Carsley would just be a pretty intelligent appointment, even if it's just on an interim basis. And lastly, he's an RG, and people don't like RGs in England, understandably so to an extent. But I think Mauricio Pochettino would do a really good job as England manager. I think he's almost like an honorary Englishman, and although he's a ex-scummer bastard, which does dock him points, I think he can coach a fluid style of football, which is okay, maybe not the most effective, but seemingly what England fans want. I mean, personally, I just prefer winning. I don't care how it's done, um, which is why I think a Thomas Frank or Sean Dyche would be a really good appointment. But kind of less about what we want. Who do you feel will get the England job if you had to put your money on it?
Okay, I do not gamble. I just want to underline that. I'm not a gambler. I do not gamble. My prediction is Graham Potter because I think the FA is going to go for some hipster football, modern, tactical choice, and it will flop.
Woke nonsense. Woke
Woke
nonsense.
nonsense, okay? Yes, and it will flop. They will play some 4-2-2 with inverted wingbacks, and there'll be like a line in the middle of the pitch with all the players, and everyone will go wide out of possession to leave a big hole in the middle, and then the circle of players will go around it, and it'll be so stupid. And they won't qualify for any international competitions. He will be sacked, and he will be replaced by Big Sam Allardyce.
A big salmon. It could work. I kind of have a similar logic. What I think will happen, and this isn't an unpopular opinion, I saw the Football Ramble speaking about it, but I think Lee Carsley will come in as an interim manager and then they'll go and get Pep. I don't think Pep Guardiola is a good appointment for England. Not because he's not a good manager, but I think a coach like Pep, he needs so much time with players that international football just doesn't afford you. It just doesn't afford you. He also needs a lot of money, which I don't think is that relevant in international football. But I just feel like it's a really like underbaked version of Pep football that wouldn't work. And then if you don't fully commit to that kind of a football, you're just going to get ripped apart. So although I do really respect Pep, I think he maybe has been a negative impact on kind of the football tactical hegemony. But anyway, I think he would be a bad appointment. I'm not saying we get grouped or anything. I just don't think it would work because similar to Graham Potter, you need a lot of time there. Um, so yeah, I'm not sure it would be the best. But one player who kind of didn't do as well on the international stage because of his broken nose, which apparently caused him not to be able to sleep, is Kylian Mbappe. Not to be confused with Oscar-winning actor Cillian Murphy. Different spellings for a start, different occupations, but Kylian Mbappe recently had a big move to Real Madrid. Um, and I guess that begs the question, is this as good as it gets for Kylian? Is it all downhill from here? Look at Gareth Bale. he was on top of the world, and then he wasn't on top of the world because he fell over. But I don't know. Is this as good as it gets for Mbappe?
Okay, my unqualified opinion is that I think he has already hit his best. I think he was at his best around the period when France lost the World Cup final to Argentina. I think that throughout that tournament, he was a player who could carry a whole team on his back and change the game by himself. He needed no one else. He terrorized the defense for 90 minutes, giving them absolutely no time to have a break. I can't see his impact ever being that big again, to the point where he is kind of like the atlas of a football team, especially at Real Madrid where they just have so many stars, specifically in attacking play with Vinny Jr., Rodrigo, Jude Bellingham, even Gula, who showed that he is capable of playing on the biggest stages at the Euros. Endrick a bit less so, but he's still an option. So I think in a team like that, he won't have the chance to shine as much. But I also don't think he's capable of doing it anymore.
I agree with your logic, but I don't necessarily agree it's as good as it gets. I feel like if anything, a new environment will kind of invigorate him, and that kind of new challenges can really bring the best out of athletes. I think going from being an utterly dominant force in a relatively uncompetitive league like Ligue 1, or was it Liga Uber Eats now, or is it Liga McDonald's? I can't remember.
I
Anyway,
think it's McDonald's.
is it McDonald's, Burger King next year? Anyway, kind of going from that where you are kind of you're going through the motions almost, and you're only really being challenged when you're at the Champions League, which is not too regular, or international games where you might play a hard team. That's very different to going to a league where you are still a really, really unstoppable force and you're an incredibly talented footballer, but the mid-table sides are more competitive. And if Atleti and Barcelona get their shit together, they could put together a really good title challenge. That can either you can either sink or swim, and you can kind of go under the weight of that pressure, or you can thrive on it. And I think Kylian has the personality to thrive. I think he'll probably win a Ballon d'Or at some point. I think he definitely will actually. But it's a is he going to be at Luis Suarez level, or Zlatan level, or Messi or Ronaldo level? I say probably Suarez or Zlatan, which is obviously still incredible, but maybe not one of the greatest of all time.
I just quickly want to mention for a little film football crossover, I watched the Mbappe documentary on BBC, iPlayer, and it was really boring.
Yeah, he doesn't come across as like very interesting, does he? Like you get some players of like even like the last 10 years who they've got personality, but I just look at Kylian Mbappe and go, that's just a really good athlete and a really good footballer, which is boring. I want fun people. I want a bit of chaos. Um, and actually, I'm gonna rework the running order here. I'm gonna surprise you. We had a question in from Matesh. He says, of all the current footballers, who do you think would be best suited to be an actress or actor? And kind of going back on personality and the personality of footballers, I think Darwin Nunez would be a very good actor. He did this bit for Liverpool recently, and he was basically sat there drawing a horse with a crayon. And I think if you get him in some kind of really stupid comedic role, he could thrive because he doesn't come across the most intelligent. But that could work for him. Also, a good shout for an actor, for a footballer who could become an actor is Lee Brown. You won't know who Lee Brown is. I don't expect you to. Lee Brown is just left Wimbledon. Yeah, he used to play for Pompey, and he's one of the most gifted comedians I've ever seen. Um, so yeah, I think those would be far greater actors than boring old Kylian Mbappe.
I think the footballer who I can see being an actor, I went completely the opposite direction. Instead of comedy, I went for serious, dramatic performances. And I think someone who looks like they would be a theatre kid and studying drama or liberal arts or whatever is Hector Bayerin. He gives me such a theatre kid vibe. He looks the part. I can see him on billboards. Okay, he definitely has some of the actor aura that someone like Glenn Powell or Tom Cruise has. I don't know if he's a good actor. but I think he would try. I mean, I was just gonna write Neymar, but I tried to give an actual answer because you need to be good at acting to be an actor. So actually, yeah, remove that one.
I know Veronica's got a seemingly quite fun. It might be boring, who knows? Football story lined up, but one other actor one other football rather. It's a real tongue tie. This, going on kind of posh boy theatre kid, Patrick Bamford. He is one of the most poshest privately educated footballers I've ever seen, and that boy definitely did some kind of extracurricular drama on top of GCSE drama. So if we're looking for posh boy actor, I think Daddy's money, Patrick Bamford. Patrick Bamford's probably a lovely man, by the way, and I'm very sorry for offending you. It's all just for the sake of humour. Um, but yeah, I think Patrick Bamford has got the acting chops in it.
Right, my football story of the week is not necessarily a football story, but I saw a picture of Messi and his son eating, and if you zoom in to his son's meal, it is concerning, even for a child. He was eating slices of hot dog and pasta, awful meal, while drinking the Messi version of Prime. And I think someone should be called about this and informed of his nutritional intake.
You'd think that for like someone as rich and as kind of in tune with their body and their nutrition as Lionel Messi obviously is, you'd have like some kind of better diet for your child. Like that I'm not against a rare hot dogs and pasta as a kid. That is a shambles if you're Lionel Messi's son and you're eating what I could get from Asda. That's wrong on so many levels.
Also, a little bit from us about FPL. So, FPL has started, of course, Fantasy Premier League. And I just wanted to mention that I'm not playing it this season because I'm not unemployed anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I probably will. What we might do is we might start a mini league if I can be asked. If not, it's never happening. So apologies if that doesn't happen. Don't blame me. Blame the people. Now, before we reward you with our fantastic conversation with Mike Quill, we need you to do us a massive favour. All we want you to do, we'd love you to do rather, is leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify. And for your own convenience, I'm going to teach you a little trick. If you go to our Spotify profile and click the little cog icon, you can click auto download on, which means overnight or in the morning, before you go out on your commute or your run or, walk the dog, Spotify will work its magic and you'll automatically have the latest episode downloaded to your Spotify account so you never miss an upload. But for now, here's our conversation with our good friend Mike. We are joined by my good friend Mike Quill. Mike, how are you, mate?
Yeah, mate, I'm doing really well, thank you. How are you guys doing?
I am. I'm golden. Veronica, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great. It's a bit early for me, but I'm good.
It's a bit early for you. It's nearly midday. What are we doing?
An hour is not nearly okay.
She's like an owl. Anyway, we're gonna get right into it. Mike, I don't want to ask you a boring question about football. All I want to know is who you support, but more specifically, what was your first football memory, but specifically for like anger or heartbreak?
Okay. So for anger or heartbreak in football, it actually came it was my second game when I was young. I still couldn't really remember who we were playing. It was a cup game. It was against the lower league side, and we were at Anfield. Let's see, I'm gonna have to fact check this actually, but if memory serves, in fact, no, I can tell you what it was. It was against West Ham. I believe it was West Ham, and they scored a late winner. And the thing was, I was with my dad at the time. I wouldn't go football with my dad too often, you see. So it's like it's a nice memory. You go with your dad or whatever. But I just remember because football means so much to my family. It meant so much to my dad. The entire ride home, he was playing Nickelback on full blast and wasn't speaking to me. Now that's very difficult having to listen to Nickelback for an entire journey home because I don't mind a bit of Nickelback, but it's like a 40-minute drive, and it was a greatest hits album. So it was a very difficult, to be honest, the album was worse than the result for me, and that's more so what memory I have from that game. But
Was it
yeah,
was it just Rockstar on repeat?
I wish it was. No, it was a load of stuff that I wish. In fact, I'm glad I've blocked out my memory, like trauma. I'm sure if I went to therapy, the greatest hits album would come back to me. But yeah, no, I'm quite glad. It was like today was your last day or whatever. Was blasting out the speaker. Yeah, my dad was not happy, and he felt like that was the right way to process it. So yeah, that was probably my I forgot the question. Yeah, that was my worst memory, without a doubt.
All right, Mike. That's a very traumatic memory, but thank you for sharing it with us. I want to ask you, as another Liverpool fan, of course, what are your hopes and aspirations for Liverpool this season and in the transfer window? Are they more positive than mine, or are you also a little bit depressed right now?
Optimistic, honestly. I feel like we've got a new structure in place. New management. I think it's a new era. I think it's came at the right time. I think in hindsight we'll look back at this moment with a lot of understanding, probably a lot more understanding than we have now. I know because this is being recorded, obviously, during the transfer window, there's a lot of fear, existential dread around the football club. But honestly, no, I'm optimistic, and hopefully, if someone listens back in 12 months, I'm proven right. But no, I feel like we're in a good position. We've got a good young side. We've got a manager who I'm not going to pretend like I knew about 6 months ago, but now I know about him. I'm excited by him. And I feel like we're in a really good position to build something special. I think right now we just, as a fan base, have a little bit of envy because we see teams around us doing business. And I feel like that's probably just got a lot of people on edge.
Now I have a bonus question. Right. If you had to sell one player who is a starting player of ours, who would
Right.
it be? And you can't give a cop out answer. I
Okay.
will push you for a starting player.
Okay, so listen, you know what? I'll go differently as well because it's really easy to just say Diaz and Nunes and use the rhetoric that's kind of used online, so I won't use that. A starting player I would sell. He's one of my favourite players, but if for the sake of this conversation, I'll say Andy Robertson. And the reason I'll sell Andy Robertson isn't because I don't think he's good enough. Right, Veronika just gave me a thumbs up. You won't see it, it's an audio broadcast, but she gave me a thumbs up. This is bias. I've been led to this answer, all right? But no, I would say Robertson. And the reason I'd say Robertson is because I think age-wise, he's at a point now where we either need to be buying his replacement to embed in over the next 2 years, or we need to just bring in his replacement now. He's still got the energy. He's still, an absolute workhorse, but I just feel like he's half a yard away from where he used to be, and that half a yard makes all the difference when you're trying to win a title, you're trying to win a Champions League. I still think he's an essential player in a sense, but if you're asking me one player from our standard starting 11 that I would look to sell, that isn't Diaz or Nunes, I would say.
Mike, you mentioned earlier about therapy, not specifically, but in the football context, and I think a lot of us have quite negative memories about football and about being angry, and that sometimes outweighs the positives rather. Onto film though, I think most people have more positive memories about film, and those early memories and those really strong ones. What were some of your really early memories about film? Potentially, like a cinema trip with a relative, or a film you hadn't repeated as a kid. Like for example, I watched the Simpsons movie, I reckon about 20 times as a child. So that'd be a really strong one for me. What about you?
Now, fair play, because that's a cracking movie. So, you had elite taste from a young age, mate. Fair play. So for me, my Auntie Julie, who's not actually my auntie, she was my godmother, but we just call her Auntie. She'd take me to the cinema every couple of weeks when I was a kid. And I used to be like, escape, because, when you're growing up, although you can't necessarily process everything that's going on around you, you can differentiate between positive and negative. And I think I was aware of certain negatives that as a child, it was best to sort of remove me from. Nothing insane, but your standard stuff, parents, divorce, etc. So my auntie Julie used to take me to the cinema, and it wasn't necessarily the first movie. I couldn't tell you the first movie in truth, but a movie that stuck out to me that she took me to see, which I have no idea to this day how she got me in to see, was Chronicles of Riddick. I must have been about 7 or 8. It's like a 15 or 18 rated movie. Still to this day, I think, because my auntie Julie is one of them, I think she bought 2 tickets for like a Disney movie, and then we just went into, because we weren't sat in like a good seat, we were sat in like a side seat, but I think she snuck me into the wrong movie theater because she wanted to see Riddick, because she's a big Riddick fan. So I went to see that. I had a great time with it. I was fine with it, because at a young age I was pretty good with those movies. But like I remember going to see like a load of the Mission Impossibles with her. She was, God bless her, she liked the Fast and Furious movies up to a point as well, so I've seen a lot of them with her. Anytime any sort of like sci-fi related movie would come out, we'd always go. And I think I got to the point when I was like 15 where roles kind of reversed, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to buy the tickets now. You don't worry about it, I'll buy the tickets. And I got one of them Cineworld passes where I actually only need to buy one ticket, so but it was, it was good, and like that continued on probably until I was probably 16, 17. Not as much now. I'm an adult, but every now and then, every time I've seen it recently actually while I was at my brother's wedding, and I said, "Listen, let's go, let's go see a movie again," because that was something I've done throughout my entire sort of upbringing, and I think that's one of the reasons why I have such an affinity to the cinema specifically, is because it's like a place of sort of escape. It's escapism. It's comfort. It's you kind of switched away from your phone, from anything else going on in your life, and for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours if it's something ridiculous. You're locked into an experience, and it's just you and the screen in front of you.
All right, Mike. Speaking of locked in, we need you locked in right now because I want to hear your 3 favorite films of all time.
Oh, fucking hell. I don't remember that being on the question sheet. If it was, that's my own fault for not. Okay, 3 favorite films of all time. 3 favorite films of all time. There's recency bias, and do I have to do it in order? Can I ask? Do I need to do this in an order? No? Okay, cool. They're shaking their heads at me. They're saying no. Recency bias tells me Oppenheimer. I think Oppenheimer was the most complete movie I've ever seen. It had absolutely everything. It was an epic. It was just a perfect movie. Not to quote Homelander, but to the last detail. It's perfect. But it was just brilliant. So Oppenheimer's 100% in my top 3. I think I could easily make an argument for another Christopher Nolan movie, potentially 2 Christopher Nolan movies, but I'm not going to make this a Christopher Nolan trilogy for my top 3. So definitely Oppenheimer. This doesn't belong in a top 3 in terms of quality, but it is one of my favorite movies of all time. Hot Fuzz is for me the greatest. I could quote that movie from start to finish with a lot of ease. You can't see right now, but Jack is celebrating, so that should tell you what you need to know. But Hot Fuzz for me is the just top tier British comedies. It's just perfect. And it's not just funny, but it's incredibly well put together. It's actually got a fantastic storyline. I was watching a Ryan Reynolds interview recently, and he said the best comedies don't come from when you're writing comedy. You write the story first, and comedy naturally comes in later. And I think that's how the likes of Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and that wrote, and it's really apparent in Hot Fuzz. And that also came from a student movie the director did when he was younger that he actually sort of incorporated into the movie, which is quite cool. That was used to be on the DVD extra stuff. You guys remember that DVD extras? What a great time to be alive. So Hot Fuzz would definitely be in the top 3. And then a third favourite movie of all time. I'd probably say the original Alien. I felt like the original Alien was a perfect horror. Even to this day, if you lock in with that movie, you turn the lights off and you put that movie on, you still get drawn into the eeriness of it. And a fourth shout out doesn't make my top 3, but I do think it's incredibly underrated. The Invisible Man came out about 4 or 5 years ago. I think in terms of the way it's Longlegs is inspired by it. You can tell the way the visual element of Longlegs is inspired by it in terms of filling the frame with emptiness, but it makes you feel like there's something there. But yeah, The Invisible Man is just a movie I've gone back to a lot, and I didn't expect to, but I've gone back to it a lot, and I just think it's a fantastic movie. But yeah, my top 3.
I desperately need to watch the original Alien. I want to watch Invisible Man as well. So there's a
You've
few
not
there
seen the
that
original Alien? Hold
no,
on.
well, we're gonna
Veronica,
get
have
to it
you seen the
later, but
original Alien? Neither of you two.
no,
No.
it's a shambles.
This is a film. Oh, okay, right.
I've
Listen.
seen The Invisible Man. I saw it at
Oh,
cinemas, and it was
okay.
really good. Okay.
Okay, see how she's pulled the point back, and Jack says, "Hey, I've not seen
Yeah,
it."
I'm in the mud.
Yeah, go on. Listen, new Alien movie's coming out. It's a great opportunity. I'd
Yeah,
recommend go see the original Alien. Go watch Aliens, the sequel. Anything after that, you don't need to watch. You don't need to watch Alien 3, Alien 4, pretend they never happened. They are not good movies. They're fun to watch. Number 3 is fun to watch. Don't watch Resurrection, though. That is a steaming pile of dog shit. Excuse the language. You can edit that out. It's not allowed to swear in here.
fine, mate.
But yeah, so that's what I say. Definitely go and watch Aliens. Absolutely.
I will. Yeah, I'll do my best to watch it this week ahead of the next episode. But in terms of what you've been watching recently, I'm not going to ask you for your last 10 films watched because I think that would be a bit unfair. But what's one film that you watched recently, and what are your thoughts on it?
So I watched Longlegs recently in the cinema, but I feel like you guys will have covered that in your own segments, or will look to cover that at some point. But I can talk about Longlegs with you. But one movie that stuck out that I actually went back to watch was a movie that came out around Christmas with Adam Sandler called Spaceman. Now, Spaceman's a really unique movie, and like I enjoy Adam Sandler in a serious role. It's like it's a little niche fetish as a cinema watcher, a movie watcher. I enjoy when he takes on a comedian taking on a
Sorry,
serious
Mike.
role.
Was that fetish? Did you mean
Fetish
to
is the
use the
wrong
word
word.
fetish there?
That was the wrong word. Edit that out. Edit that out. I used the wrong word. You know what I meant? I forgot the word I was looking for, and I said, "Oh my goodness, that's gonna get."
You're interested in serious roles.
Yeah, there we go. We'll go with that. I like when a comedian takes on a serious role. I think comedians in general, I think, are able to tap into sort of quite dark emotions. I think a great example, actually, like a niche example, would be Bill Burr in Mandalorian season 2. Like he puts on a phenomenal performance. I think it's like episode 4 or 5. It's just like when comedians take on serious roles, it's always more engaging to me, I think. But yeah, it's a great meditation, Spaceman. I think on isolation, on loneliness, on regret. It's the only movie ever that's made me look at a spider and go, "It's kind of cute." Which, can you believe that? I know, it's incredible. There's a moment he hugs the spider. For anyone that's not seen the movie, that's going to sound wild, but he hugs the spider, and it's a really emotional moment. But yeah, so I would highly recommend Spaceman. And Longlegs, I mean, I've seen Jack shake his head. Have you guys spoke about Longlegs yet? Have you guys seen it?
Veronica has. I've not seen it yet, but I do want to see it.
I won't give any spoilers away, unless she's already spoiled it for you. But I don't want to give any spoilers away for those who haven't seen it. I think if you aren't a huge Nicolas Cage fan, you'll be fine. That's all I'll say. Because I think if you are, you're going to see Nicolas Cage, and it'll do what it did to me, which will take you out the movie a little bit. I really enjoyed Longlegs. I think it's a very interesting movie. The third act kind of falls apart for me. Didn't like the end of it, if I'm going to be honest. But yeah, when Nicolas Cage comes in and he starts doing Nicolas Cage isms, it's a. I laughed in the cinema several times during a horror movie, which is never a good sign. But Veronica, what did you think of Longlegs?
I will talk about it more later, but I've seen it twice actually. Second
Okay.
time a bit by accident, but again I'll explain the story. Moving on, tell us, what is a cinematic blind spot that you have? We want to shame you a little bit. I don't know if that's another one of your fetishes, but
Alright. Nah, you gotta edit that out. I used the wrong word. My God.
Tell us a famous film you've never seen.
I've never seen Forrest Gump, and I've also never seen Titanic. And I'll even give you a third one. I've never seen The Incredible Mr. Ripley. So 3. I gave you 3. I've got to be honest. Forrest Gump probably is the headliner, but yeah, no, I've never seen those 3. I got put off by Titanic because before I ever watched it, my mum made a slightly crass joke about Titanic. Then I felt like I couldn't take the movie serious for several years. I never seen Forrest Gump because I felt like I'd seen it through a million clips on social media. Yeah, so I've got to be honest, and that's it. And The Talented Mr. Ripley, it's just like a 3-hour movie. I just never had time for that.
Yeah, I watched Forrest Gump when I was really young with my grandma. And so I've kind of loved it ever since. But Tanner Mr. Ripley is good. It's just a good film. So yeah, not too egregious. I think Forrest Gump is slightly egregious, but we'll let you off. Now, what we like to do here is we like to set, or we like the guests to set either ourselves or the viewers at home, if we've already seen the film, some homework to do before the next episode. So even if me and Veronica have seen the film already, it's not the end of the world because we'll discuss it on the next episode. Veronica doesn't know this, but I've worked out a workaround in case we've seen the film. So can you set either ourselves or the listeners a bit of film homework?
Absolutely. I'm going to give you 2 movies, and you need to watch them by next week. Specifically, you need to watch them by August 7th, actually, I think it is. Alien 1 and Aliens. And the reason for it is because the new Alien movie comes out early August, and it looks phenomenal. What I'd also specifically recommend is watching the extended cut of Aliens. The reason for it is because that was Cameron's original vision that they couldn't put to cinema because of, I think it's because of gore originally. But yeah, both very different movies. One's a horror, one's an action thriller, both sci-fi, both incredible. And yeah. all good. Give me one moment there. There we go. It's like two bikes colliding. But yeah, no, both are absolutely incredible. They are staples in cinema in general. If Aliens wasn't made, a lot of sci-fi we have seen since would never have came to be. So it is very much a pillar of sci-fi that you need to make sure you've watched.
Well, I'll absolutely be watching at least the first Alien because it's on Disney Plus, so I have no excuses. I can't get out of it. So I'm very excited to watch that because it's been one I've wanted to watch for a while. But anyway, Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Let the people know what you got going on. Have a little plug. Big yourself up. It's been yeah, an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. So I love talking about football. I work for Anything Liverpool, where we interview CEOs, former journalists, journalists, footballers, coaches, and soon-to-be referees that are currently still involved in the game. We'll be going all season. I do live streams for them as well during games. So you can find that on Anything Liverpool or Anything LFC, or you can find me specifically for my own opinion on @QuillTalks on Twitter. And if you like a little bit of music, I do music as well. You can find that at my main account, which is @Mike Quill. I was recently in the States recording in New York, Texas, and Chicago. Had a great time doing that. I had a load of music come out this year. I've got more music coming out too. So I was just on BBC Radio as well. So feel free to run that back if you really, really fancy diving in deep on that. But yeah, thank you guys for having me on. I've had a great conversation. I love talking about movies. I'm a nerd to my core. So no, really enjoyed this one. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, mate. Cheers. Absolute delight that was with Mr. Quill. We loved it, and we hope you did too. But for now, we are going to get back to film homework. Veronica, last week for a little catch up for our audience, I had you watching Licorice Pizza by Paul Thomas Anderson, a very divisive film, I'd say. One I love, but not everyone does. How did you feel about it?
Okay, I did watch it. I did my homework. Okay. Um, I usually like or dislike a film, and I know that sounds stupid because, yeah, obviously you like or you dislike a film, but I genuinely am very rarely in the middle or not sure after watching something. And for some, that might be more offensive than me just disliking it. But yeah, I wasn't sure. It was a strange one for me. I think the positives were definitely Alana Haim, who was very good. I'm surprised she wasn't nominated for an Oscar. She was way better than I expected, very kind of charming at times. And I think it was kind of cool how the Haim sisters just kept their real names in the film. They couldn't be bothered to learn new names. Bradley Cooper was probably my favourite part, which I say rarely. Uh, it looked really good. The cinematography was nice, the sets were nice, production design, and that's kind of part of why I didn't dislike it.
So, just quickly, a little fun fact for the listeners: the soundtrack to Licorice Pizza is one of my favorites of all time. How did you feel about the music? Because I think we've got someone on our letterbox mutuals that didn't care for it because it felt a bit on the nose, but I love the music personally.
Yeah, I thought the music was pretty good. I honestly didn't really pay attention to it too much, but if I didn't dislike it, it means it was okay.
We'll take that. We'll take that. I was um I was set one of Veronica's favorite films, which is Portrait of a Lady on Fire. It's something I've wanted to watch for a while. I really liked it. I didn't like it as much as Veronica, and I'll explain why. So it reminded me a lot of Call Me by Your Name and Phantom Thread, which are two kind of romance films I really like, especially Phantom Thread, again by Paul Thomas Anderson. In terms of the positives, it's a stunning film. It's one of the most beautiful films I've ever watched. I don't think others come close. I think the contrast of the blues and the greens and the reds was gorgeous. I actually thought the sex scenes and the general romance scenes were done incredibly well. I thought it was really tasteful. You can kind of get it in romance films where it's a bit, I don't know, like a bit formulaic and a bit safe, or maybe a bit uncouth and I don't know, a bit much. But I thought the sex scenes were done very tastefully, which sounds like a weird compliment, but I think it's one of them where sex scenes can really go one way or another. So I'm glad it kind of went well. The issue to me were the pacing. I don't mind a slower film, but I thought it did meander quite a bit, which was an issue for me. I feel like I'm one of the people where pacing is probably one of the biggest factors if I like or dislike a film. And it didn't resonate as much for me on a personal level, understandably so, because it's not kind of my lived experience, but definitely a really good film. One I'd recommend actually. I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd, so about an 8 out of 10. Um, yeah, really, really beautiful film. Um, Veronica, why do you understand why I didn't love it as much as you did?
Yeah, I understand, but that doesn't mean I'm not disappointed in you.
We live in a society where an 8 out of 10 is a bad film, unfortunately. What kind of outside of the film homework we had each other doing? What else have you been watching this week? What was kind of the highlights and the lowlights for you?
I had a few cinema trips, but we'll get onto those later. Outside of those, I watched this film called Boy Kills World, which is a actiony film that came out this year with Bill Skarsgård as the lead and a voiceover by the guy who plays Sterling Archer in the series Archer, which is kind of cool, but it did get a bit annoying. It was kind of like watching a live video game playthrough for most of it. The kills were cool and unique, like using random items, cheese graters, carrots, like a gun that was a boxing glove kind of with bullets coming out of it. It's pretty cool. But the plot just completely fell off a cliff in the final act. Also, there's this little girl who appears randomly, and I understand that they wanted some kind of emotional, side plot, whatever, but she's so annoying in the fight scenes, and I wish it was just a whole film with no plot of Bill Skarsgård being really cool fighting people in different ways. Um, Also, shout out to Jessica Rothe because she was really good in both of the Happy Death Day films that I recommend everyone watches. They're really fun slasher comedies, which is a type of film that I enjoy. And after she did those, she just kind of stopped getting jobs. So I want to congratulate her on getting a job and being in this film. Yeah, well done, Jessica, for getting the part. I'm rooting for you if you're listening.
Three cheers for Jessica Roth. We should get her on the podcast. I'm sure she's a massive football fan. Have seen since the last record. I've seen 5 films, one of which was in the cinema, so I won't talk about that. We'll start with the negatives. The only bad film I saw, which I gave it to 2.5 out of 5, it's kind of straight down the middle, was X, which obviously I brought last week in the physical media roundup. I just didn't think it was that great. I thought it was weird because there were some really fun moments, but there was a lot of just like dullness. I didn't feel like it was I've not seen loads of slasher films. It's not really my thing, but I didn't feel like it was most inventive in the kills. I thought there were some really cool elements. There was some cool commentary about like beauty standards and aging, which I liked a lot. But yeah, it didn't kind of win me over. I also saw Fargo, the film, not the TV show, which I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I thought Fargo was really good. I wanted to watch it for a while, and I think it kind of wilted under that expectation a little bit because I didn't love it as much as I wanted to. But Frances McDormand, one of my favorite actresses, she was great in it. I love William H Macy. I think he's just superb in everything he's in. And Steve Buscemi is always fun. It was really well written. The editing was cool, so I like that a lot. I saw Portrait of a Lady on Fire, obviously, which we discussed, and then the other film I saw, which was the best film, I gave it a 5 out of 5, which is sort of rare for me at the moment. I've kind of slowed down on my 5 out of 5s. It was The Iron Claw. Veronica, I know you didn't love it as much as me, but I'm a sucker for sports dramas. That's like my kind of thing. Um, I thought it was obviously it was only 2 hours long, and in that kind of version of it, it was perfect for me. It was flawless. I didn't have any complaints. It should have been 3 hours long, and it should have included the other brother, which was never mentioned, and the younger brother. But I get why they didn't do that because I don't know. It's kind of hard to draw people in for that. Um, so yeah, Veronica, you teased earlier. You had a couple of cinema trips, one or two maybe. I can't remember. What have you seen recently in the cinema?
Okay, I want to preface me going to the cinema with a short little story. I was walking to the cinema in London and I saw someone in front of me actually using one of those disposable vapes with a touchscreen on it. This made me so upset. I just wanted to mention that. Can you believe this, Jack? That
I
those exist?
I'm not a big vapor. I mean, I think the only times I've vaped are at nightclubs, and that was a while ago. But why would you need it? What can you even do on that? What
I
can
don't
that play
know. I
Nintendo
have
DS or
no
something?
idea. But it's disposable, so you throw it away after. Why would anyone make that? Okay, anyway. I watched Maxine, finally, and I loved it. I just want to say that they mentioned my name in the script multiple times, which gave it bonus points. Thank you to Ty West for writing that in. I know you were thinking of me. You could have put me in the credits, but whatever. I think it was a really good end to the trilogy. It was camp. It was not to be analysed and taken seriously like some people have. Lily Collins did a North Yorkshire accent at one point, and it was so bad and all over the place that even though there were about 5 people in my screening, everyone laughed. And I think it was on purpose, but it was so bad. I've never seen an accent that bad. Okay?
I personally think you should attempt the accent. I've already done a Bristolian one, so I think
No,
you should honour us. That's poor from
absolutely
you.
not. At 1,000 followers, I will do a North Yorkshire accent. Uh, and anyway, the very last thing to mention is that I love Mia Goth. She's amazing in everything she does. She was robbed of a nomination for Pearl, and I think she's probably one of my favourite actresses working right now. I added an extra part to my review because my friend of the podcast, Reese Jones, said he hated the ending, and I want to say, I want to give a response, okay? An official public response to Reese Jones. Actually, this whole film was an homage to 60s, 70s, 80s Italian horror, and it was mainly inspired by Giallo, because that's kind of what this film's whole style is, if you were paying attention. Or if you had a little read. If you accept this and you just have fun with the film, you will like it, but I do understand how someone can hate it if you're not a fan of that. And actually, the only thing that this film flips on its head from that period of Italian horror are the brutal depictions of violence against women, which was typical in those sorts of films. Maxine is usually the one acting violently on camera, which is great. I'm glad that they didn't go that route of going all in and saying that, oh yeah, it's a homage to Italian horror in the 60s, like, we're gonna show complete brutalization of women. So, bonus points for not doing that. My one criticism of the film that I can agree with, I don't know if anyone has said this, so I don't know if I'm agreeing with anyone other than myself, but my one criticism is that she could have gone further with the violence and gone completely off the rails. I understand why they kind of reined it in, but I just wanted her to do more. I wanted to see more killing and more violence.
That's you all over those, isn't it? You just love pain. Also, you've said there something about reining it in, and I can't. Since seeing Maestro, I can't hear anyone say I'm reining it in without hearing Bradley Cooper's voice go, "Reining it in, I rein it." Oh, what a man! I love Bradley Cooper, even though he's a bit of a weirdo.
Okay, my second cinema trip, which happened yesterday. Okay, so fresh cinema trip. It made me very angry, and I'm gonna explain why. Okay, I wanted to rewatch Kinds of Kindness for the third time in cinemas. Okay, I wanted to complete my hat trick of Kinds of Kindness, and then I walk up to the people checking tickets, and they're like, "Oh, screen 3 was cancelled, by the way." What? How can you just cancel a screen 10 minutes before it starts? Okay, whatever. I got a refund, and I went to another cinema and I just watched Longlegs again, which was still good, but it was less scary because I've seen it before, so that kind of lowered my rating to a 4 instead of a 4.5. And I was definitely affected by the fact that Kinds of Kindness was cancelled. So I was sitting there really annoyed with my arms crossed the whole time. So that was it. I rewatched Longlegs. I know Jack hasn't seen it yet, so we can't really discuss it too much. And for my next trips, I booked Twisters for tomorrow morning. By morning, I mean 12:40. And we'll see if I like it as much as Jack, but I love Glenn Powell, even all the shitty comedies he's been in, so I will probably love this film.
Yeah, I as Veronica said that I've just seen one film in the cinema since the last episode, which was obviously Twisters, starring Glenn Powell, Daisy Edgar Jones, who was normal people, Anthony Ramos, and other people, which is kind of how casts work. Um, and yeah, before I talk about the film, I love Glenn Powell. I love Tom Cruise, as I said in the last episode, and I see kind of Glenn Powell as like carrying the torch of Tom Cruise, but less of a Scientologist, which is probably a good thing. I think Glenn Powell has just got such amazing movie star energy. I mean, you look at like Hitman, Top Gun Maverick, Everybody Wants Some by Richard Linklater, Set It Up, which is a rom-com he did about 5 years ago now with I believe Zoe Deschanel. I think that's a really good film, and yeah, I've not seen the original Twister, I believe it's called, but I heard you didn't really need to see it, and I didn't feel like I've missed out on not seeing it. I loved Twisters. I thought it was just such a in your face summer blockbuster, and it goes back to what Mike was saying earlier about like not every a film can be like really highly rated by you, but it doesn't have to be like a magical piece of art. And this was just a really not even dumb. It was just like a big in your face blockbuster. Glenn Powell, some of the most charismatic acting I've ever seen, is him with a cowboy hat. He's a cowboy scientist who chases tornadoes. Like, what more do you want in a film? And yeah, I feel like it's one of them where if you so cinema trips, they're more expensive these days than they were before. Everything costs more. That's life, I'm afraid. But people are kind of nervous to go to cinema because there's a lot of crap on. If you want a cinema trip that will not let you down, at worst, you might think it's a bit crap, but you'll enjoy it. Go see Twisters. It's just a really, really well made film. Really fun. Loved it. In terms of my upcoming trips, potentially long legs. Although I'm quite busy, so I don't have time for that. But I have booked a ticket for Deadpool and Wolverine on Thursday night. I'm very mixed on Marvel at the moment. It's way worse than it should be. But I've got a little bit of hope for this film. I hope it's fun at least. And yeah, Veronica, are you excited for Deadpool and Wolverine like I am?
No.
Well, that was a short but sweet answer from Veronica. In terms of physical media updates, Veronica, I know you've not got anything, but I have. On my way back from seeing Twisters, I panicked and realized I hadn't brought anything for the podcast. I I ran into CX, and CX is the worst shop of all time. It smells of goths. It's terrible. We'll restart. In terms of this week's physical media update, I've not got as much, but on my way back from seeing Twisters, I was in a rush and I realised I hadn't got anything. I was walking past CX, which is the worst shop of all time. It smells of goths. You never get what you want. I hate it. It's deplorable. But I ran in there and I was like, oh my God, it's only me and two other customers. And there's two till staff. This would be a piece of piss. So the film I got was Silence of the Lambs on Blu-ray. £5. I've never seen it. I feel like I should see it. So I've got that. I'll probably cover that in the next episode. That was fine. I'm a Brit. I don't mind queuing. It's good etiquette. You should be patient. Bear in mind, there was two other people in this shop and two servers. Tell me why I queued for 17 minutes to buy one Blu-ray. I was so angry. I was so angry, and this probably wasn't the staff's fault. It's not their fault. It's the people just taking ages that are trying to sell their stuff. I believe that CX should streamline their business model by having two queues, one for buying, one for selling. It would be way easier. It'd be way easier. And I felt kind of bad because when I got up to the front of the queue, I put the film down. I was like, that please. And then she looks at me and she was like, you got any ID? Luckily I had. That just annoyed me because I look like a child. I don't need to be reminded. And then she went to me. She went, "Have you got a?" This wasn't her fault, by the way. This is me being pissed off. She went, "Have you got a CX membership?" I was like, "No." And then I kind of looked at my watch just instinctively because I was really paranoid at the time. She went, "Oh, you're in a rush." I was like, "Oh, yeah, I feel terrible." But yeah, my recent buy was Silence of the Lambs on Blu-ray. Never going back in CX ever again. Don't do it to yourselves. Veronica, have you got a little bit more of a positive physical media update for us?
Yes, I do. I have two little bits. So I just want to mention that I read the Kinds of Kindness issue of Little White Lies magazine that I got last week, and it had some great interviews of the cast. Also, a very insightful article about the depiction of God in cinema and godlike figures that I would recommend reading if anyone has the magazine. I also acquired Ty West's autograph from my friend Adnan, who went to a Maxine Q&A while I was on holiday. So I'm going to add that to my collection.
Now, we promise at the top of every episode, we promise the latest film news. So every week we are going to do a little news roundup. I'm going to do the boring stuff. Veronika's going to do the fun stuff. This is how it's going to work. If anyone is listening at home and wants to make us some kind of jingle for this bit of the episode, some kind of dramatic music, please do, because we need more musical bits. I'll do my very professional newsreader voice now. The latest film news: Andrew Scott and Brendan Fraser. They're making a D-Day film. Brendan Fraser playing Dwight D. Eisenhower. I don't know why this film's being made. It sounds pretty cool. Glenn Powell, much beloved Glenn Powell on this podcast, is to lead the Running Man reboot directed by Edgar Wright. Good director, good actor. Who's going to complain about that? Not me. In Marvel news, the Russo brothers are in early talks to direct the upcoming Avengers films. Why? I mean, the only positive of that is that they're not going to make other films like The Grey Man, which is probably good for world cinema, which is keep them locked in Marvel films for the rest of their lives. And my final little bit of news is Timothy Chalamet is to lead Josh Safdie's ping pong movie, Marty Supreme. So that is my little news roundup. Veronika, what bits have you got for us?
Okay, so, in case I don't mention Venice enough, the opening film was announced last week, and it's Beetlejuice. They released a trailer that I didn't watch, of course, and some posters, I think. It honestly looks like something I wouldn't like, so I'll see it begrudgingly. It looks like a Disney Channel original movie with Marvel humor, but at least Jenna Ortega and Willem Dafoe are in it, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the original Beetlejuice film is one of my girlfriend's favourites. I was recently made to watch it. I say made. I asked if I could watch it with her, and it's a good fun film. I didn't love it as much as her, but I worry about legacy sequels quite a bit. So I'm slightly worried by how this will go. But hopefully for Jess's sake, it's good fun.
Also, the lineup for Venice Film Festival just came out today, which is very exciting. I will definitely do my research and prepare a proper longer segment next week about what I'm most looking forward to see. So watch out for that one next week, and that's basically all my film news.
Now, to round out this penultimate segment of the podcast, I believe you have got a cheeky little film anecdote for us.
Yeah, I have a little story, and it's film related. So strap in, okay? I went to check my Letterboxd notifications last week, and I saw there was a comment made a few weeks ago on a review of a film I watched quite a long time ago called Murderitaville. And I watched this with my friend Kat quite a while ago, so I'm not sure why this comment came now. It's not high budget, it's actually very low budget. It's not known by anyone really. We just stumbled upon it and it was quite funny, but I'm not sure if we were laughing with it or at it, or maybe laughing at it was the whole point of the film. Who knows? Anyway, I saw this new comment on my review, and it was actually from the director of this film, Paul Dale. Shout out, Paul, if you're listening. He commented, Sean Phelan, the actor that I mentioned in my review that I enjoyed, is going to be the lead in our next film, a romantic horror comedy sing along drinking game film. Paul Dale, director of Murderitaville. So he basically announced his new film in my comment section on Letterboxd, which was quite cool. This film hasn't been mentioned anywhere else on the internet except in my comment section on Letterboxd. So put me in the credits, please, Paul, or maybe send me some merch if you guys got a budget increase from $0. I will be calling myself a film journalist now because I've received an exclusive, And I will give an update on this romantic horror comedy sing-along drinking game for whenever one appears. So this is still a developing story here at FCA headquarters.
I personally think the director should invite. This is kind of the power of this podcast, by the way. Episode 2, we've already got scoops. This is how big we are. We should absolutely be invited to any premiere as a podcast. We should be able to do press junkets with them. We should be, we should have the inside track on the follow up to a much beloved film, Murderitaville, I believe it was called, which you can get on Amazon for £8 if you wanted to. But that is a wonderful way of rounding out the film segment. Now into the Q&A. A friend of the show, Matt Baldwin, he asked, question for next week. Is there a line from a film that you quote regularly? And for me, yes, there absolutely is. One of my favourite Christmas films, one of my family's favourite Christmas films is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which I implore everyone to watch. It's fantastic. It's very quotable. And there was a quote in it where they're all sat around the dinner. They've got a turkey. It looks gorgeous. And one of the lead characters goes, if this tastes half as good as it looks, and then they cut into the turkey, and the turkey just explodes because it's just been overcooked and it's just full of air. So whenever anyone in my family cooks a meal, always gets said, if this tastes half as good as it looks. So yeah. Miltos, is a bigger Hancock analysis fan. I hate talking about myself in the third person, that's horrible. Miltos asks, how are Jack and Veronika's morning routines looking like? Veronika, you said before your morning starts at 3 in the afternoon, seemingly. How your morning's looking at the moment?
Okay, so I wake up, I brush my teeth, I eat 2 toasted thin protein bagels with smoked salmon and cream cheese, and I have a coffee with unsweetened soya or almond milk, and then I check my emails/messages, and that's it, basically.
So I'm getting up at around 9 a.m. maybe at the moment, unless I have work. I currently work 2 jobs, one unpaid one, 2 of them are work from home. One of them I'm on, in a sports hall coaching, but so I can do most of the work from home. I'm waking up at around 9 a.m. I will make a cup of tea, go to the toilet and all that stuff, and then I'll go back to bed and I'll just mindlessly scroll on social media for between 30 minutes and an hour, which is so bad for me, but someone's got to do it, and no one's doing it for me. And I try normally to get a little bit of work done before midday. I should say I'm not a breakfast person at all, just straight tea. So I'm always grumpy in the mornings because I get up and I look at food and I go, ugh, not for me. Yeah, so I try and get a little bit of work done before midday just so I feel slightly productive. Like for example, I started painting a radiator in the morning, and that took me all day, and I do an extra coat. And I hate painting, especially radiators. Don't paint radiators, people. Just leave them white. It's not worth it. Miltos also asks, if you could have dinner with any fictional character, who would it be? For me, it would be, I'll have 3. It would be the granddad from Little Miss Sunshine, Holland March / Ryan Gosling's character from The Nice Guys, and Dewey Finn from The School of Rock. How about you?
I just have 2: Sydney Sweeney and Longlegs.
I will say though that Milton does say fictional character. Does that imply that Sydney Sweeney is not a real human being?
Yeah.
Fair. That's fair. I can't argue with that. Our last question, my good friend Sam Chinnery, who is a Norwich fan. That's an in-joke that only a few people understand, but I sit with him at Pompey games. Asks thoughts on McGregor in Roadhouse. Veronika, how did you feel about Roadhouse, I guess, and also McGregor's performance?
I liked the film. I saw it with some friends. I thought it was a lot of fun. Didn't take itself seriously. I don't like McGregor, but I do have to give him this. He fits the film like a glove. Fortunately, not a boxing glove. He was genuinely better than I expected. But in general, I don't think he should pursue acting full time. This role was kind of specifically made for him. But he did a good job.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I thought Roadhouse was like kind of rubbish, but really fun. Jake Gyllenhaal's great. As for McGregor, can't act to save his life. It was quite a bad performance, but because it was Conor McGregor, you go, yeah, that totally works. He's just a psychopath who is like smacked off his head with however many drugs he can take. So you kind of just buy into the nonsense and the chaos. Really good question. As always, make sure you send in any questions midweek. We normally try and do a tweet kind of a couple of days before each episode, asking for questions, and we've had some belters so far. But that's all for today and for the end of episode 2. We made it to 2 episodes, which is a big achievement. A lot of podcasts don't make it past episode 1. So, you got us for at least 2. So that's all you really need to know, innit? We're just great. We're committed. We've got scoops. We've got guests. We've got all sorts. Before we let you go, though, make sure you do follow us on Twitter. It's at FloodlightsPod, and make sure you subscribe on YouTube for the if you're a YouTube person rather than a Spotify person. Again, Floodlights Pod. Make sure you hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. And yeah, Weronika, it's been an absolute pleasure. Let people know if they should follow you. I mean, I don't think they should personally, but if you want anything to plug, let them know.
Yeah, I don't have much to plug for myself, but as Jack said, follow the podcast socials at Floodlights Pod. If there's anyone listening who would like to send us anything, film, football related, sponsor us, be a guest like Mike today, or even have a question, feel free to send us a DM on Twitter through the podcast Twitter or our personal Twitters. I will check my DMs because they're empty. Or feel free to send us an email with any inquiries, floodlightpod@gmail.com.
You heard her. Go check all that out. We'll be back next week, hopefully with another amazing guest, as we had a delightful time chatting with Mike Quill. So make sure you follow him on socials and you listen to his music. But until then, keep watching, keep consuming. Adios.